welcomes you to a live presentation of the National Women's Soccer League.
We're back to where we began the NWSL in Lifetime, here in Portland, Oregon, for the final game of the regular season between the Red Stars and the Thorns. It's a potential playoff preview. The Thorns and their fans know they'll be hosting a semifinal here next week, but will they see Chicago again? Today's game will determine that.
For the third consecutive year, the Chicago Red Stars are headed to the postseason with the NWSL Championship in their sights. A healthy Casey Short,
Here's Short, and she has scored!
And Kristen Press as they fight to secure their playoff seed in the final weekend of the regular season. But they face the Portland Thorns, who are riding a 5-game unbeaten streak behind an unbreakable defense anchored by the unyielding Adriana Franch, who looks to add a 12th shutout to her record-breaking year.
The shot! Franch saves it!
It's the NWSL on Lifetime. The Thorns versus the Red Stars, live.
Welcome to Providence Park for the regular season finale, a battle between two teams destined for the playoffs. Chicago punched their ticket with a 3-2 victory over Houston last week. The Thorns will be the 2 seed, and they've been in tremendous form lately, unbeaten at 4-0-1 in their last 5 matches. And of course, they're getting even stronger lately. Tobin Heath, one of the best players in the world, is working way back to 100%. U.S. International, who made her NWSL debut last week. She'll be coming off the bench again in today's game, but she will feature working her way back to 100% health. Sam Johnson will be one of the stalwarts in the back trying to slow down Heath in this Thorns attack. The center back has been fantastic for Rory Dame's crew all year. She started every match but 2 to this point. Now, Portland is the number 2 seed, and we know because Wednesday night, North Carolina had a chance to win the NWSL Shield. They did just that. They went on the road down to Texas and absolutely took care of business. Sam Mew is just gliding past defenders, slots the first goal home. They went on to win 4-0, claiming their 12th shutout of the season and the number 1 overall seed as we head to the playoffs. So here's where the standings are, folks. 1 through 4 is locked in. 1 and 2 are in place, as we just said. 3 and 4 are still up for grabs. Chicago, with a win or draw today, they're the 3rd seed. Orlando has to win. Chicago has to lose for them to move up. And as you see, we'll be in Portland next Saturday, in North Carolina here on Lifetime next Sunday. Both games, coverage begins at 3:30. Hey everybody, welcome into our set alongside the great Allie Wagner. I'm Dallin Cuff, and now this time of year in every American sport we get into the question of rest versus rust, and that's where we're at today, because this game doesn't really impact the standings for Portland, but they're playing everybody. Chicago is resting a lot of people. Rory Dames, do you agree with that decision?
Well, normally I wouldn't argue for wholesale changes for a team, but when it comes to Chicago, I can see why he made this decision. I think you could argue that this was a team that peaked mid-season and hasn't quite found that form again. And when you consider their style of play, how direct they are, getting fresh legs is important because you have a lot of U.S. internationals on this team that have carried a lot of the minutes for them, whether that be Casey Short, Julie Ertz, Kristen Press, those 3, and then you can add Sophia Huerta into the mix. Those players have done a lot of the workload, whether it be with club and country, and when you consider how impactful they are for Chicago, they've combined for 22 goals, 13 assists, so they need to be at their best. When it comes to a player, all you want to be is confident when you go into those playoff moments, and I think them being fresh is probably will make the biggest impact for the Chicago team going forward.
As you saw, a lot of minutes, a lot of games played, but all 3 of those players, Alyssa Nair too, in that mix as well, but a goaltender a little different. Let's talk about Portland now. Mark Parsons, in the past, he told us he's gone, and with Washington when he was a coach there, and he's gone the rest route, and he thought they went in rusty and they struggled. So today, he's starting pretty much his 100% lineup he would want to play if there's a playoff game.
Well, again, this is pointing to the fact that I don't know there is a foolproof method of how you handle these last games heading into postseason. I think with Portland, it makes sense to not necessarily rest a bunch of players. They've had rotation, whether it be through Euros, through injury, through suspensions. So they have a freshness to their team, and I would argue that they've been peaking later in the season. So you kind of want to keep that train rolling. You want to get Tobin Heath mixed in, folded into the mix. So this is a Portland team that, again, you go, okay, what's going to make my team the best and most confident next week? Well, it's to kind of keep this rhythm going.
If Tobin can start next week in a semifinal, that's pretty amazing for Mark Parsons and crew. Chicago's been on a good run here as of late, 3-0-1 in their last 4. As you mentioned, they hit that bobble in August and really struggled. We'll see if they can turn it around and get a win here today. As we said, it can influence the standings as it relates to the semifinals next week. Now, coming up after the break, Casey Short, she has become an absolute lock at that left back position for Chicago and the U.S. team. She's been great all year, but she almost hung up her cleats a few years ago. Hear her story of perseverance and toughness when we come back.
Critics are raving. The year of Wonder Woman continues.
I am Dr. William Marston, creator of Wonder Woman.
On October 13th, meet the women
I think you long for an unconventional life.
who inspired the phenomenon.
Brilliant, pure of heart, ferocious. Wonder Woman is you, the both of you.
And never boring.
Professor Marston and the Wonder Women. Rated R. Everywhere October 13th.
And we're back here at Providence Park getting set for the Thorns and the Red Stars in the regular season finale. Both these teams will be trying to get to the NWSL Championship game, which starts just 2 weeks from today, and you can be there, folks. And tickets are only $20 a pop. The championship held at Orlando City Stadium, 4:30 Eastern. Again, 2 weeks from today, October 14th. Broadcast, of course, live here on Lifetime. More information, log on to nwslchampionship.com. Now, the first semifinal will be here next week in Portland, and they've been great at home this year, the best home record, and have allowed the fewest goals, and that lady right there is a big reason why. Adriana Franch setting a new NWSL record with 11 shutouts marked last week. Allie is with Adriana.
All right, Adriana, I got to ask, last week you picked up the NWSL season shutout record when you got your 11th clean sheet. I know you're going to deflect it to your teammates, but there's got to be something that comes back to you. What in your game has progressed this season that's helped you achieve that feat?
Well, it's just, getting the game experience and learning from every situation, every game, doing all the analyzation that we do as individually with goalkeeping and then as a whole with the team. And, opening up, okay, well, we made an okay decision here. What are our other options? Can we find better options? And, just keep striving for stuff like that.
Well, as a team, you guys already clinched your playoff spot. You're actually hosting next week here, Saturday, the first semi. But you have work to do today. What do you guys want to get out of this match?
To continue that progression, we got the shutout in Orlando, but we didn't score. We didn't have that offensive threat that we necessarily wanted, and we just find those different things from different games to continue to grow and to move them on into the next game.
Awesome. Thanks, Adriana.
Thanks.
We'll see if Adriana can pick up another clean sheet today, but there's another player who's interested in picking up a clean sheet for her team, and that's Casey Short. Jen has more on her.
Yeah, Allie, actually Casey Short and Adriana Franch were teammates in Norway in 2015, became very good friends, and now amongst the best defensively at their respective positions in the NWSL. For Casey Short, she's been named to the NWSL Team of the Month 3 times this season, more than any other defender, and she's also become a regular starter on the back line for the U.S. Women's National Team. However, very rarely is there success without struggle. And for Casey, that came in the form of 3 ACL surgeries in a 4-year span, a trial that very easily could have taken her away from this game for good.
I love the quote that's something along the lines of, get knocked down 6 times, get up 7 times. I think that truly defines what perseverance is. No matter how many times you get knocked down, you get back up every single time.
For Casey Short, perseverance is a word she knows all too well. During her senior season at Florida State, Short tore her ACL, MCL, and dislocated her kneecap. After a grueling 8-month rehab, she was finally ready and returned to the field with the U.S. Under-23 team.
In our first game, there was another collision, but this time it was my right knee, and having gone through it once before, I knew right away it was very bad. And I had torn my ACL and MCL once again. I was kind of faced with this decision: should I continue to go after my professional dreams, or is this dream really meant for me? But after I got done feeling sorry for myself, I made the decision: I'm going to come back stronger, and I'm going to go after my dreams. So the next step basically was to attack my rehab and get myself healthy again. And then I took a step in training, and something didn't really feel right in my knee. I knew something was wrong. I wasn't sure going into the surgery what was going to come out of it. I remember waking up and they told me basically it was the worst case scenario. Everything was torn and my recovery was going to be twice as long because I had just gotten a surgery the year before on the same knee. So at that point, I definitely considered, is this the end? Am I done?
But the endless support of family, teammates, and an unexpected reminder from Chicago Red Stars coach Rory Dames provided hope.
As I was still recovering in the hospital and kind of at rock bottom, not really sure what I wanted to do moving forward, I got a text message from Rory basically saying, I still believe in you. I still see you as a part of this team. You can come back from this. And at that point, you know, I really needed that because I was very unsure. I had a lot of question marks moving forward. It gave me the confidence and the desire to continue to go through this process and to want to come back. I think when something that you love so much is taken away from you, you realize how much it means to you. You realize how badly you want something, and every single time, first, second, and third time, I realized more and more how much passion I had for this, how much I love playing. And I am so thankful for, you know, everything that's happened, the highs, the lows, everything, because I think it's shaped my journey, and I think I'm where I'm meant to be right now.
That journey will include a third straight trip to the NWSL playoffs for Short and Chicago. Whether they are a 3 or a 4 seed will be decided at some point today. When we return, Allie and I will take a look at today's starting lineups, and we'll have the opening kick in the final week of the NWSL regular season. You're watching the NWSL on Lifetime. It is a crisp, gorgeous day in Portland, Oregon, and the Rose City Riveters have done it again, breaking out the tifo to protect this place. You see the natural beauty of Oregon reflected there in the tifo, and the fans have come to support their Portland Thorns, currently sitting in second place and playoff bound, hosting the Chicago Red Stars. This could be a preview of next week's semifinal, and for the Portland Thorns, Allie, pretty much the regular starting lineup you'd expect to see.
It exactly is. I mean, only one change from last week with Long sitting on the bench and Henri coming into play, but this will look more like a 3-4-3 in the attack. Megan Klingenberg likes to slide up into that midfield. Nadia Nadim will get high. Ashley Sykes will get high. So will Sinclair. But everything has changed for Portland since Christine Sinclair has been playing in that deeper role and Rosso up high.
8 goals for Sinclair in the season. Meanwhile, for the Chicago Red Stars, quite a different story. 6 starters out of the starting lineup for Rory Dames.
That's 2 very different approaches from 2 different coaches, and that's Rory Dames giving some rest to his starters, and you'll see a lot of changes with Sarah Gordon, possibly the fastest player on the Chicago Red Star team, coming into that back line in the right back spot, which switches Gilliland to the left. In the midfield, Caskey, Camo, they get their starts. Camo actually hasn't played holding mid since college. And then up top, McCaffrey Green, a new look. Green gets her first start of the year.
As I mentioned, a beautiful day. A little chilly up here in the broadcast booth, if we're being honest. 62 degrees on the field. Some clouds and sunshine mixed up in the sky. Our referee, Elvis Osmanovic, will be monitoring things between these 2 teams who, as I said, could face off again on this field next Saturday. And how great is it to see Vanessa DiBernardo back in the starting lineup for Chicago? She would be a regular starter. She missed a handful of games dealing with concussion syndrome.
Yeah, that's just her second game back since coming back from that, and she's going to be the one today to dictate the tempo in that attacking mid spot.
And meanwhile, for Portland, we mentioned this is a good look at their regular starting lineup. Lindsey Horan has been in there for every match this season.
And I think she'd be someone that Mark Parsons would look to get some rest, but no, sure enough, he's rolling the ball, getting her out there saying, let's see what you can do again, Lindsey. You've been leading the way all season long.
Portland has had Chicago's number this season. This is the 3rd meeting. They've won the first 2. Last week of the regular season in the National Women's Soccer League, kicking off from Providence Park. Jen Hildreth, Allie Wagner, Dallin Cuff, our Lifetime crew, glad to have you here with us. Michelle Dalton getting the start in goal in place of Alyssa Nair, just her second appearance of the season for Chicago.
I know, so many changes. I didn't even mention her in the lineup.
It was hard to cover all of them. Chicago looking to attack, kind of broken up initially by Emily Menges. Here is Kasky. You talked to Adriana Franch before the game, Allie, who set the NWSL single season shutout record last week in Orlando. She was pretty pleased with the defensive effort, but admitted this team wants to get a little more offense. I don't think we'd argue with that.
No, I think we'd love it. We'd relish them getting forward a little more. They don't play as open of a style as you would presume. They keep things tight defensively, and they look to play on the break more so than they ever did in the beginning part of the season, and it's worked well for them. But I would like to see more goals.
I think most fans would agree with that.
But hey, they're getting results, right? So you can't argue that.
Portland 13-5-5 on the season, have locked up that #2 seed for the playoffs. North Carolina clinching the shield, and a mistake in the back. Russell puts the Thorns on top.
Just got a feel for Michelle Dalton here. This ball is played forward, a hopeful ball really, and then Rasso doesn't even press that hard and just given a gift right to her feet by Dalton, who's trying to play out of that pressure. It's an easy ball laid back by Sam Johnson, but Dalton just gives a gift to Rasso there. Again, nerves perhaps getting that start for Michelle Dalton. But you can't get behind here at Providence Park with this Portland Thorns team.
Well, we wanted goals. I guess that's one way to get them. Certainly feel for Dalton, though. She's just making her second appearance of the season. To make a mistake like that on your first touch, tough to recover from, but that will be her challenge.
I was going to say this was going to be an interesting game to see how it evolves with a lot of these players on Chicago fighting for playing time next week, trying to prove their case. When you're sitting behind 1-0 this early on, of course you're going to be a little rattled, and that confidence is going to take a hit.
Sam Johnson, one of the regulars on the back line for Chicago, been so good at that center back spot, along with Katie Knott. Gilliland as well, can play on both sides of the back line. And amongst all of these stars on the Chicago team, 6 U.S. women's national team players, Erin Gilliland, one of those that head coach Rory Dames has lauded this season in terms of having one of her best seasons for the team. Another turnover here is going to give it to Nadia Nadim. The shot is blocked by Naughton. Nadim finding Amandine Henry. International connection for the Thorns.
That was such a good ball by Nadim. Split the back, slid it right into the path of Henry to run onto. Hit that ball first time.
And you understand the strategy, the philosophy to an extent of Rory Dames wanting to rest some of his players who've been, as you showed in the pregame show, getting in a lot of work both for club and country throughout this season. But you also don't want to feel like you've given goals or games away in that first one. And then nearly another mistake and giveaway in the back just a few moments ago by the Red Stars. Now they're pushing forward, though. This is looking better, more promising for Chicago on the attack.
Oh, that's true, Jen. But what I would say is that a lot of these players aren't the typical starters, and so that confidence factor isn't going to be as crucial with these players compared to the players that are going to line up next week.
Very good point. Mentioned those 6 starters out. Kristen Press, Casey Short, Julie Ertz, Sofia Huerta, Danielle Colaprico, Alyssa Nair. They also have Yugi Nagasato out with the red card she received last week. Morgan Bryan is out again with a hamstring injury. pretty good team sitting on the bench for Rory Dames.
Should make for a fun after the game training session, that's for sure.
Ball touched forward by Alyssa Motts, who has appeared in every game this season for Chicago, one of two along with Sofia Huerta to make that claim. There's Nadim, Danish international. Not finding McCaffrey. And then Gordon making the overlapping run. Talked about her speed. Gilliland will serve it up. And Megan Klingenberg got to it first for Portland.
And Erin Gilliland, I've been watching this all season long. She's very, great defender, does the work, but too many times she just serves hopeful balls into the box that Chicago's not ready for. I think she has to make better decisions as she progresses down the field.
And you can see there really wasn't much of a target for the Red Stars on that service from Gilliland, to your point.
No, and it's been a reoccurring theme, and it hasn't been corrected, I guess you could say, yet.
The Red Stars known for their pressure. The pressure results in the turnover here. Good work from McCaffrey at the top of that. But now it's turned over. Rasso, whose 6th goal of the season in the 2nd minute, put the Thorns up early. Henry. Ashley Sykes. Trying to get around Gilliland. A lot of contact between those two, and it'll be a free kick for the Thorns.
And that's such a good decision by Ashley Sykes because there's the cover on the inside. She opts to go end line and draw that foul. Well done and good recognition by her.
Sykes, the Golden Boot winner in the W League over in Australia, got a little bit of a late start joining this Portland team in mid-June, but now her 12th start of the season. She's fit right into this group. Mark Parsons liked the way she's grown into the season.
Well, she brings that pace and that 1v1 mentality in the flanks that they've been using so often in the latter half of the season. More direct style from this Portland side.
So essentially a very short corner set up here for Megan Klingenberg, who has 6 assists on the season. Serves it right into the area, headed out of bounds by Henry. See a look at some of those all-stars on the bench for Chicago, and you take a look at how these teams have fared against the other playoff opponents. Really, these two teams, the best records of the 4 playoff teams against the rest of the field.
And what's interesting about that to me, Jen, is that both Portland and Chicago seem to be capable of breaking down. Yes, they can play this open style, but they're also capable of breaking down teams that sit in more. So I think that's why you get some of those more favorable results against the top teams.
Rasso trying to challenge Johnson. Portland Thorns hosting the final regular season game here at Providence Park of the season. They'll be hosting the semifinal next Saturday as well. We'll be back for that. We could see the Chicago team in the mix for that one if they hang on to the 3 spot where they are at the moment. A win or a draw here today by Chicago would guarantee them the 3rd seed and a rematch with the Thorns next week. if they lose and Orlando wins tonight at North Carolina. That's the only way that the Pride would flip-flop with Chicago, take the 3rd spot. Chicago would take the 4th, and then they would travel to North Carolina for the semifinal next week.
And I'd be interested if it does hold that Chicago stays in 3rd and Orlando in 4th. Do these teams travel back home midweek, or do they stay in the host cities? I would think they would stay and limit that wear on their body, but
especially with the cross-country flight for Chicago getting out here to Portland. Henry. Sykes. Not past Steve Bernardo. Horan is fouled. And she earns another dangerous free kick here for Portland.
And Chicago had a lot of numbers centrally. They were in good position. Silly to give a foul away right there at the top of the 18.
Portland 14 goals off of set pieces this season. That is the most in the NWSL. 5 of them coming off of free kicks.
That's because of the service has been there, and Emily Sonnet has been big time. 3 goals to her name.
All of those coming since August 5th, by the way, for Sonnet. That'll be Horan to take it. Drives it through. Boy, Henry was there. It's still there for Rasso, who just missed her 2nd goal.
And here's a good look at it. Klingenberg steps up like she's going to take it. That one just skips right over, and then no one's able to clear that ball. Dalton stymied on her line. And that trickles by just wide of the post.
This Portland team has been in excellent form down the stretch, unbeaten in their last 5. They've won 8 of their last 10, and during that stretch, 9 different goal scorers. So getting some scoring from all through the lineup. Sinclair, 8 goals on the season. Gets the cross, headed down. Sykes is there, and she has it all! The Aussies firing up the crowd here at Providence Park. First goal of the season for Ashley Sykes.
And well-deserved, because I think she's been the brightest spark thus far for Portland. But it all starts with this woman here, Christine Sinclair. She drives that line, gets that serve, pulls it far enough back. Poor clearance there by Gordon, bounces right to the feet of Sykes. And you can see a nice little pocket of space that Sinclair is sitting in, right behind that outside back, in front of the center back. And then that clearance goes right to the center of the park, and the volley. Sykes just gets a hold of, puts it in that far post.
And officially that will go down as unassisted, Allie. So unbelievably, Christine Sinclair still without an assist on the season, but that was a pretty good example of how she is so involved in setting up a lot of the scoring for this team.
That's why I'm an advocate of the double assist in soccer. So crucial in that build-up play. The pocket of space she's sitting in, the awareness to go end line and flight that ball back across, forces Chicago to be under pressure. And again, just not a great clearance there by Gordon. 2 mistakes thus far by Chicago have cost them, put them 2 goals under.
That was Summer Green who had the ball, passed it back. Now she'll get it back, making her first NWSL start this afternoon.
Rory Dame says she's one of those players that's very good around the box, but Chicago's yet to get in and around the 18, so we can see that. Played college at DePaul University for Aaron Chastain, former coach of mine.
Portland sitting comfortably with this 2-goal lead. And it's all about, for the Thorns, continuing positive momentum. They feel like they've gotten in a groove. They want to keep it going. We're kept off the scoreboard at Orlando last week, although to be fair, it was a pretty acrobatic save by Ashlyn Harris and then a save off the goal line. Was it Camilla who went in and got that, I believe?
Monica.
It was Monica.
I'll always help you with that, Jen.
Thank you. That's why we're a good team. Help one another out. But anyway, took that effort from a couple of players on that to keep Portland off the scoreboard at Orlando. But the words of Mark Parsons, he said, we just feel like we need to do whatever we can to keep this train moving in the right direction. There's no question as to the talent on this Portland team.
I mean, they're stacked, and you said it, goals are coming from everywhere, and that's very hard to defend against if you're facing them in this match and come playoff time, because you can't just play someone out of the game.
Turnover, but taken right back by Sonnet. Lily's been underrated in terms of the work she's put in all season long on that back line for the Thorns. Here comes Rasso. A bad touch in the back. Johnson heads it away, but she and Rasso bumped heads in the process. Gosh, I hate to see that. And you know at this point, the #1 goal for both coaches is to get out of this match without any injuries.
No, you're exactly right, Jen. And players are aware of that, coaches are aware of it, but it doesn't really change much in how you go about your game. And you can just see there the two players collide heads after the ball is played out by Johnson.
Taking a look at our current standings heading into this final weekend of the regular season in the NWSL. The North Carolina Courage clinched the Shield on Wednesday night with their 4-0 win over Houston. You see Portland sitting in second. Those two spots are decided. And Chicago and Orlando, in some order, will be the 3 and 4 seeds. Rasso back to her feet. Johnson still down on the ground, and Sam Johnson, one of those incredible stories, a player who made the team in Chicago through open tryouts back in 2014 and has now just been a stalwart on that back line.
Yeah, and the combination of her and Naughton has actually allowed Julie Ertz to play another role for them in the center of the midfield. We're not seeing that yet today, but it's been pivotal in the success of the Chicago team this year.
I think you would credit getting a chance to see Julie Ertz in that higher role in the NWSL, maybe giving Jill Ellis the green light to try it with the U.S., and we all love that too, didn't we?
100%. I mean, Jill Ellis was pretty adamant that she wasn't going to play in that spot for the U.S. team, didn't think that that was going to suit the team, and come to find out, she realized how great she can be there, and it looks to be her spot to lose at this point.
So Sam Johnson back up for the moment. Certainly they'll have to make sure that she is given the full clearance to continue. And Danielle Colaprico will come on. It looks like she's chatting with Rory Dames. And Colaprico, one of those regulars in the starting lineup for Chicago, but in the midfield.
And we'll see how that shifts Chicago's back line. It looks like perhaps Gordon goes to his center back position for Sam Johnson.
So at the moment, Chicago a player down with Johnson off. Rory Dames wanting to try to get the substitution in, but quick throw-in from Portland prevented that. Now the substitution will occur, so first change of the match. As Rory Dames' hand forced by that collision with Sam Johnson having to go to the sideline, and Colaprico will come on.
Colaprico comes on, and what I presume would happen, Como goes to that outside back spot. She's played there already this year.
Como, one of those versatile players, gives Rory Dames some options in situations just like this. Now Portland will try to regain some of that flow they had before the stoppage. Klingenberg will take the free kick. It is in the area, and Dalton came out for it strong, was fouled in the process.
Well, she opts to come for this. It's flighted right into that perfect spot where the players are going to arrive and the goalkeeper at the exact same time. She doesn't hold on to it, but earns the free kick.
Well, Dallin Cuff down on the sideline. Dallin, you have more on that Sam Johnson injury?
Yeah, Jen, she did not go to the locker room. You can see her on your screen there. She's sitting on the bench talking to the medical staff. Actually, Rory Dames just came over now. Sam is communicative. She's talking, but obviously it's a head injury concern. We'll try to get more information as the game roars on.
Yeah, thanks, Dallin. And we mentioned earlier, you know, they lost Vanessa DiBernardo, one of the keys in the midfield for 4 matches this season, dealing with concussion symptoms.
And that center back pairing has been stalwart this year for Chicago, so could be a big hit for them come playoff time if she can't get back on the pitch.
Sure.
And then you've got to think about, you know, Rory Dames definitely had playing substitutions coming into this game when he didn't start his full complement of players. How does that shift things around? Who's going to go 90 minutes now that wasn't intended to? Because my presumption is that that back line was going to.
A reminder that the NWSL playoffs begin next weekend. Our first semifinal on Saturday. We'll be right here as the Thorns will host either Chicago or Orlando. And then on Sunday, North Carolina hosting either the Pride or the Red Stars. Coverage for each of those games beginning at 3:30 Eastern, 12:30 Pacific, live right here on Lifetime. Sonnet, a little bit of savvy as she keeps possession, and now we'll find Sykes. DiBernardo takes over for Chicago. And quickly runs out of room. Portland defense, which has been so good this season, just 19 goals against, tied for the best in the league. The fewest, I should say. So tough to break down.
And they've had that consistency of lineup, but I also attribute it to their discipline. They all get back. They all keep track of the players in their zones. They make very good decisions. Make it look easy, that last play there where they took the ball away from DiBernardo.
Mark Parsons, the reigning NWSL Coach of the Year, as the Thorns won the Shield in 2016, hosted a playoff match for the first time. They'll be looking for a little revenge if they can, as they lost that one to Western New York at the time, 4-3 in overtime. It was an incredible match. Western New York, of course, now the North Carolina Courage, and another collision. This time it's Rasso down. Again, as she was involved in the first one with Johnson. And a yellow card is shown.
Well, Rasso on the receiving end of another knock to the head. Looks like an elbow, a forearm, as she rises up to meet that ball by Gilliland into Rasso. And Razzo's been so crucial to the success of Portland. I would consider taking her off the pitch. If she's taken this many hits 25 minutes in.
There's really no one else quite like her, that skill set for this Portland team.
Well said. It's her ability to hunt and to chase down hopeless balls and then to take players on. She's somewhat unpredictable. She'll run at 3 players when it's probably the better decision to go outside, but she creates fouls, she draws fouls.
Nadim with the shot, didn't miss by much. And Dallin, you've got an update on Sam Johnson.
Yeah, Jen, just a little more information. Johnson just went in the locker room now talking to their medical staff. She took a knock to the jaw as well, so they're concerned about her jaw as well as her head. She's being evaluated for further head injury issues, and they're also icing the jaw and tending to that as well.
Let's take a look again at the collision between Johnson and Rasso.
Yeah, it's clear right there. That head goes right into the side of Sam Johnson's face. It's going to be smoothies for her all week.
Summer Green. She will earn the free kick there. As a look that Henri was ready to take it away, but in the eyes of our referee, committing a foul in the process. Adriana French, sun in her eyes a bit as she sizes this one up, sets a wall. Colaprico takes it. Set pieces offensively have not been a strength for the Chicago team this season. It's something Rory Dames has said they've worked on. But no goals off of free kicks all season long for the Red Stars.
That's surprising to me when you have a Julie Ertz. She's so good in those moments.
Nadim has Rasso in the center. Leads her a little bit too much. Nadim again for Portland. Klingenberg, as she so often is, there on the side, ready to send the ball across, but too close to Dalton. DiBernardo looking for options, tries to get it up to McCaffrey.
There's good counter movement there of Summer Green checking and McCaffrey getting in behind, but even if McCaffrey gets on that, she doesn't have a lot of help. This is where Chicago has to understand what the game is asking of them. They've been conceding possession, so they've got to get a hold of it, try to develop just a little rhythm. I know these players don't play together all that often, perhaps just in training, but simple soccer decisions would benefit them.
Some dangerous touches with Rasso lurking in the area for Portland. Get a glimpse as to what she brings to this Thorns team, especially applying the pressure to the back line of the opponent. This is Kasky, the UCLA product, up to Green. Camo did indeed move out to that right back spot on the back line when Colaprico came in. Turnover to Sinclair. And she knows she let that touch get away from her.
And it's really just some loose passes right now that are catching Chicago. That's Colaprico with the deflection bouncing into the path of Sinclair. But before that, you could see Kasky's quality on the ball. She was making those smart decisions. When I say soccer decisions, I mean simple passes into the right space to the right foot that helped them keep possession initially.
Here is the first corner of the match. Klingenberg takes it. Haran there to collect. Crowd banging the drums, providing the soundtrack in the stands as they always do here at Providence Park. And Portland has not disappointed their fans. They have been excellent at home on a 6-match winning streak where they've outscored their opponents 14-2, have 4 shutouts in that stretch this season, 9-1-1 overall at home
on the season. That's the best mark in the league.
They certainly reward these fans. Next weekend is going to be rocking here.
No question. See just the one loss all season long at home for Portland.
And this is a good look at where Chicago wants to win the ball from Portland. It's along these flank spaces, and in fact, they do force the turnover.
DiBernardo now back to Caskey. Green. Good idea to find Como in some space. And Como will earn the corner for the Red Stars.
And that's the right decision by Chicago to try to go end line, but Megan Klingenberg does a nice job. She goes to ground initially, but the quick reaction to get back up and block that cross that came in. Well done, 1v1.
Quarter of the match. Headed up, but not out by the Thorns. And the team clears it a little further up the field. Rasso gets knocked down, earns the free kick. Portland wants to start quickly. Look at the advantage, but it's going to be a yellow card as our referee will call it back and have the Thorns try that again. Caskey picking up the yellow.
And Rasso clearly frustrated. She's just getting fouled all over the place today.
Well, she's one of those players that can drive opponents crazy. She herself is known to not shy away from contact, shall we say. Missed opportunity initially here, but the Thorns do retain possession. Gilliland. Play it back to Sarah Gordon, who moved over. Colaprico. Mox is fouled. Reminder coming up this evening, North Carolina and Orlando, the Pride, heading to Cary, North Carolina to take on the regular season winners in the North Carolina Courage, who are playing their third match in a week as they had that midweek win over Houston. And that does have meaning for this Orlando team. If this match stays as is and Chicago loses, that opens the door for Orlando. If they win, they pick up that third spot in the standings and the number 3 seed rather than the 4 seed in the playoffs.
Yeah, but it's a pick your poison, right? Do you want to face Portland or do you want to face North Carolina?
And oddly, that may not be a bad thing for Chicago, who, remember, is 3-0 against North Carolina this season.
And sometimes you just match up well against a team, but history means nothing for the future.
It is a whole new game once you get to the postseason. Every single match of the postseason in 2016 went to overtime. Championship going to penalty kicks before Western New York hoisted the trophy. Gordon, knowing Rasso was on her back, played it back, but I think you could see one of the big areas without Alyssa Nair in there, the distribution from Dalton just not the same for the Chicago team.
And they just have to know that and not put her under undue pressure, unnecessary pressure. Allow her time to adjust to the pace of the game.
Klingenberg allowed to keep advancing. Now Horan trying to pick out Sinclair, who heads it toward the goal, but Dalton an easy grab. This Portland team just ready to pounce on any errant touch by the Red Stars. Henry told her parents are here in the stands. Make the trip over from France to see Amandine play. Klingenberg getting into the area, and she'll get the second corner of the match for the Thorns.
It's been all Portland in the early goings of this half. Just unnecessary turnovers from Chicago, giving the ball to Portland, and then you can just see how they work the ball. Getting their numbers forward, Klingenberg getting on that outside back position into the attacking third. Bodes well for Portland.
3 assists off corner kicks this season for Klingenberg. Horan so good in the air, and credit Dalton for coming out and grabbing that ball before anybody else could get to it.
And a good service here by Klingenberg. It's a little high, and you can't fault Colaprico. She's not the tallest player on the field, but she challenges Horan just enough to throw her off that she can't get enough power on that.
Green with a quick turn to find McCaffrey. McCaffrey knew that first touch let her down.
But great cover there by Kat Reynolds. You could see her pace. Nice chemistry there between McCaffrey and Green.
So second corner of the match for the Red Stars. And once again, Kasky will be the one to take it. There's that left foot. Headed down by Camo, but out of bounds.
And here's a look at what drew that corner kick. Reynolds just covering him behind, bodies McCaffrey off. Good strength and speed there to win that, and then doesn't get there before it rolls out the end line.
Now Reynolds, one of those players that has had to work her way into the fluidity and the mix on the field for Portland. This is just her 10th appearance of the season, as she was injured at the start of the season. But there was never a question, I don't think, in Mark Carson's mind that she would be an integral piece of the defense. I think she's one of the most important players on the field when she's healthy.
Yeah, he said she's our best 1v1 defender, bar none. And that gives you some stability, some flexibility to send other players forward. Klingenberg's been in a more advanced role since Reynolds' insertion into the lineup. Allows you to create overloads on both flanks, if you will.
DiBernardo gets it out to Gilliland. Henry will challenge and take it away. Sykes didn't really have much room to work with when she got it. Now Kasky's shot is blocked by Menges. Gilliland had McCaffrey on the move, now sends it in. French, though, an easy catch. Tickets to the 2017 NWSL Championship are on sale with prices starting at just $20. The championship will be held at Orlando City Stadium at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 2 weeks from today on Saturday, October 14th, and will be broadcast live on Lifetime. For more information, log on to nwslchampionship.com. Under 5 minutes to play in this first half from Providence Park.
Portland Thorns sitting in a comfortable 2-goal lead behind goals from their Australians up top, Grasso and Sykes. Now Klingenberg on the turnover, lays it off for Nadim. Nadim, little trickery to get the ball through. Sykes tried to get there as Dalton couldn't hang on to it.
We're just seeing waves and waves of attack from Portland. The deflection actually is what gives that a nice trajectory as it skips in behind that back line of Chicago, but no player able to get on the end of it. You can see Nadia Nadim and her ability to dance on the ball. Takes her defender 1v1, goes end line.
You know, she may be one of those players that's still trying to make sure she's feeling comfortable. She has 5 goals, 3 assists on the season, but the majority of those goals came early in the season. We saw her score September 2nd against Washington. That was her first goal since May 16th.
And a lot of them were penalty kicks, so not in the flow of play. And it's not that she's not adding other elements in her ability on the flank to get in behind defense, as we just saw there, and create. But she wasn't finding the back of the net and being a threat herself in the run and play.
Third yellow of the match comes out. This time it's against Portland and Henry.
Look, players have to be cognizant of what is at stake here. You have playoffs next week. You want to be smarter.
Yellow card given to the Thorns, number 28, Henry given the caution card.
And that does mean you shy away from some tackles.
Nadim cuts it, takes the shot, had it blocked. Klingenberg is there. Haran loses it to the 2 Chicago defenders who teamed up on her there. Henry worked to get it back. Yellow card didn't slow her down at all. Nadim, now Sinclair, not a lot on the volley. Coming up at halftime, Dallin will have NWSL news and some great highlights from last week. Plus, Allie and I will break down the first half, one that has really been dominated by this Portland team, which, especially considering the personnel on the field for Chicago, as we mentioned at the top of the broadcast, more than half of the players on the field not regular starters for the Red Stars, as Rory Dames opting to rest some of his regulars.
Yeah, but you never know if a team's going to find lightning in a bottle. You roll out some fresh faces, players that are hungry to get minutes. It just didn't start well for them, and they haven't recovered. The confidence hasn't been there to connect. That's just a perfect example right there. 2 players not on the same page. DiBernardo and McCaffrey don't play all that often together, and DiBernardo's trying to send her to space. McCaffrey's wanting it at her feet.
And I do think the contrast in the philosophies between the 2 teams and the 2 coaches is interesting. It'll be great to see how it plays out in the playoffs. As Mark Parsons said, he's tried that before. He's rotated players and rested them, and he just didn't feel, as Nadim takes the shot, it's off target, he just didn't feel that his team was in rhythm then once they got into the playoffs. He had it happen with Washington 2 years in a row when he was there.
And I think it's just a matter of figuring out what's best for the group, and that can change year to year. And I think he sensed with this team that they're on a wave and they're going to ride it out, and I get it. But I think you're right, Jen. Let's see how it ultimately plays out. Because the Chicago team was peaking mid-season, and Press has had a knock. Nair's been living with a knock. So if those players get fresh, mentally, physically, does that change the way they play? Because I don't think they've been as dominant as they had been mid-season when they racked off those wins against North Carolina back-to-back.
Yeah, Chicago had those 3 straight losses at home that ended that great stretch you're talking about. But they have picked it up down the stretch. Unbeaten the last 4. This ball headed by Portland still attacking in these couple of minutes of stoppage time in the first half.
And guess who? Razzo, in this case, is playing provider, but she's still just creating problems for Chicago. And Nadia Nadim sneaks inside the outside back. Camo there gets a pretty clean look on goals. Got to get that one on target.
Another couple of players down, but no whistle. Both back on their feet, thankfully. Handball. We'll give this one to Portland. Lindsay Horan, 4 goals, 2 assists for the Thorns this season. Has 4 yellows, but mind you, should she pick up a yellow today, those do reset. She would not miss the semifinal match next week.
See it tease Gordon here.
It does. She came out, but it was headed away by the Red Stars. Reynolds sends it back into the mixer. Horan got to it, but not a lot on it. That was Camo challenging Horan in the air that time. And that whistle does signify the end of the first half, Allie. One that Portland dominated and have a 2-goal lead as they head to the locker room.
And I think it's a fair halftime result right now, 2-0 for Portland. They were the better side, and now it's about how Chicago reacts with personnel and with tactics.
Well, let's see what Mark Parsons has to say about the first half. He is with Dallin.
Thanks, Jen. Good first half for you guys. Coach, you're up 2-0 right now. You told us earlier in the week, and we saw it. You started pretty much a starting 11 you would in any other week during the season. Up 2-0 at halftime. Does your approach change in the break? Do you make any changes personnel-wise coming out of break?
No, you can't turn off on a winning mentality, and this group has been focused on being their best each week, and that's what we're doing right now. I thought the start was good, and Chicago done a good job of breaking momentum. It's been a choppy game. A lot of the fouls that are going on disrupting our flow a little bit. Luckily, we got Providence over there in case someone gets hurt. So hopefully we can keep away from that, get back to playing some good soccer. And obviously, unfortunately, we got to protect a couple of players now ahead of next week.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate it. Coming out after the break, we'll be back here to Providence Park. Take you through some news and the notes of the week. Obviously, show some highlights of some great plays. We'll be back here at Providence Park. 2-0 to the Thorns right now.